The Golden State Warriors are walking into this matchup knowing that the margin for error is slim, but also understanding that context matters. The loss against Toronto was frustrating, especially because the numbers from beyond the arc were so extreme that it felt almost detached from reality. When a team shoots at that level, there is very little you can do other than absorb the hit and move on. The Warriors managed to keep the game from completely getting away early, even trimming the deficit at one point, which at least showed some competitive response. Still, the defensive breakdowns and the rhythm Toronto found made that night feel more like an exception than a true reflection of where this roster is right now, heading into the game against Dallas. The conversation changes. The Mavericks have been battered by injuries, and that alone reshapes expectations when key rotation players are questionable or unavailable. The flow of the game shifts dramatically. Golden State understands this is an opportunity to reset mentally, reestablish their identity, and prove that the previous performance was not a sign of deeper issues. There is a confidence inside the group that, when they dictate tempo and defend with consistency, they can control games from the opening tip rather than chasing momentum late. The projections and analytics surrounding this matchup lean in favor of the Warriors, and while numbers never tell the entire story, they do reinforce what the eye test suggests. Dallas has struggled to maintain stability with lineups constantly changing, and that uncertainty tends to show up on the defensive end first. Golden State thrives when there is hesitation across from them, especially when ball movement forces defenders into decisions they are not fully prepared to make. If the Warriors establish that rhythm early, the pressure quickly snowballs beyond the immediate game. There is a larger conversation quietly building around the roster itself. Injuries have forced the coaching staff to experiment, and those experiments often reveal truths about fit. Some players slide into roles seamlessly, while others feel slightly out of sync with what the Warriors are trying to accomplish. That is why speculation about roster adjustments continues to surface. The idea of bringing back a familiar face like Klay Thompson naturally sparks debate, not because of nostalgia alone, but because of how cleanly his skill set aligns with the system when it is functioning at its best. Klay has not had the smoothest season, and that reality cannot be ignored. However, context matters here as well. His contract structure is manageable, and that flexibility is valuable in a league where financial timelines dictate just as much as on-court production. A short-term move that does not compromise the future while addressing an immediate need is always going to be attractive. The thought of reintegrating a proven shooter who understands the spacing, the pace, and the demands of this system is intriguing, especially if the cost does not involve sacrificing cornerstone pieces. What makes this scenario more realistic is the balance it offers both sides. Golden State would not be gutting its young core, and the other team would gain depth and flexibility. It becomes less about star power and more about alignment. When a player already knows the culture and expectations, the adjustment period shrinks dramatically. That matters for a team that wants to stay competitive without hitting a reset button. Jonathan Kuminga's situation adds another layer to the discussion. His talent is undeniable, but availability and consistency have shaped perceptions around his value. Time away from the court always complicates narratives, and the league can be unforgiving when momentum stalls. For Kuminga, these upcoming games are less about box scores and more about reasserting presence. Every minute becomes an audition, not just for Golden State, but for the league as a whole. At the same time, trade rumors swirl far beyond simple one-for-one scenarios. Larger deals involving multiple teams, expiring contracts, and long-term financial planning are becoming increasingly common. The Warriors are not immune to that reality. They understand that expiring deals are assets in themselves, especially under the current collective bargaining agreement. Flexibility to summers from now may matter more than marginal improvements today, and front offices are clearly thinking several steps ahead. That is why conversations involving major names continue to surface, even if they feel unlikely on the surface. The league has entered a phase where distressed assets can suddenly become leverage points, and contracts that once seemed burdensome now carry strategic value. Golden State has navigated this landscape before, balancing competitiveness with patience, and there is little reason to believe they will abandon that approach now. For the immediate future, though, the focus remains on the court. The matchup against Dallas is about restoring rhythm, trusting ball movement, and tightening defensive rotations. It is about showing that this group can respond after a difficult loss and set a tone that carries forward. The season is long, narratives shift quickly, And a single performance can reshape the conversation entirely. As the Warriors look ahead beyond this single matchup, the broader picture becomes impossible to ignore. Every game now feels like a measuring stick, not just for wins and losses, but for evaluating how each piece fits into the long-term vision. With injuries reshaping rotations across the league, teams are forced to reveal their priorities. And Golden State is no different. The organization has always valued continuity, but it has also shown a willingness to adapt when the landscape demands it. That balance between loyalty and pragmatism is being tested once again. The absence of a key veteran presence has shifted offensive responsibilities, and that redistribution has been telling. Scoring has become more democratic, with multiple players stepping into moments that once belonged to a single option. While that can create inconsistency on certain nights, it also builds resilience. Defenses cannot key in on one threat, and that unpredictability can become a strength when the ball moves with purpose. The challenge is maintaining that flow without sacrificing efficiency, especially against teams that thrive on forcing turnovers and pushing in transition. Stephen Curry remains at the center of that equation. Even when his scoring comes in waves rather than avalanches, his impact extends beyond points, shaping spacing and decision-making every time he crosses half court. Recent games have shown him leaning more into playmaking, trusting teammates to finish possessions while he draws attention. That evolution is not a sign of decline, but of adaptation. When he rebounds aggressively and commits to finding the open man, the offense gains layers that are difficult to disrupt. Those subtle shifts also influence how the front office evaluates potential moves. The question is no longer just about adding talent, but about preserving the ecosystem that allows Curry to thrive. Any addition has to enhance that rhythm rather than disrupt it. That is why familiarity carries weight in discussions about roster changes. A player who understands timing, spacing, and unselfish movement can elevate the entire group without demanding touches. At the same time, the league's trade market continues to reward patience. Expiring contracts have quietly become some of the most valuable tools teams possess. They offer relief, flexibility, and leverage all at once. Golden State's leadership understands that tying up future cap space without a clear path to contention is a risk they are unwilling to take. By maintaining financial agility, they keep themselves in conversations that others cannot even enter. This approach also explains why some blockbuster ideas, while dramatic, may remain theoretical. Star power alone does not guarantee cohesion, and recent history has proven that fit often outweighs name recognition. The Warriors have built their identity on chemistry and trust, and any move that threatens that foundation is scrutinized heavily. The goal is sustained competitiveness, not a short-lived splash that fades under pressure. Jonathan Kuminga's development fits neatly into this philosophy. His physical tools and flashes of brilliance suggest a high ceiling, but consistency will determine how he is ultimately valued. Time on the floor is essential, and every opportunity becomes a chance to redefine perceptions. For a young player in a league driven by immediate results, patience can be hard to come by. But it is often the difference between potential and realization. As these narratives unfold, the importance of nightly performances cannot be overstated. A strong showing against Dallas would do more than add another win to the column. It would reinforce confidence, validate adjustments, and quiet some of the external noise. Momentum in this league is fragile, and teams that seize it early often dictate the conversation rather than react to it. The Warriors understand that the season is not won in January, but it can certainly be lost if focus slips. Every possession becomes a statement about who they are and where they are headed, whether through internal growth or calculated roster tweaks. The path forward is being shaped in real time. What remains constant is the belief that when this team commits to its principles, it can still compete with anyone on any given night. And that belief continues to drive every decision made along the way. That belief is also reflected in how the Warriors approach defensive accountability. When the rotations are sharp and communication is constant, the entire floor shrinks for the opponent. Missed assignments have been a recurring issue at times, but the coaching staff has emphasized discipline over gambling, preferring solid positioning instead of chasing highlights. When Golden State commits to that mindset, it fuels their transition game and allows the offense to flow naturally, without forcing shots early in the clock. There is also a growing emphasis on depth and versatility, especially with lineups that can switch defensively without losing size or speed. Players who can guard multiple positions become invaluable in playoff-style basketball. Even during the regular season, Those combinations are being tested now, sometimes through necessity rather than design. But the results are giving the staff clearer answers about who can be trusted when the stakes rise. These experiments may look uneven at times, yet they are laying groundwork that could pay off later. Another layer to this stretch of the season is mental resilience. Long road trips, unexpected losses, and constant speculation can wear on a locker room. Veteran leadership plays a critical role in keeping younger players grounded and focused on daily improvement. Rather than external narratives, practices become sharper, film sessions more detailed, and small adjustments are treated with urgency. That attention to detail is often what separates teams that stabilize from those that spiral. As the calendar moves forward, every decision carries weight, whether it is a rotation tweak, a strategic rest night, or a conversation about future assets. The Warriors are navigating a narrow lane between honoring what has worked for years and accepting that evolution is necessary. That tension is not a weakness, but a sign of a franchise still striving to compete at the highest level, while remaining realistic about the road ahead. In the end, this period may be remembered less for a single trade or a single game, and more for how the Warriors position themselves for what comes next. The balance between urgency and restraint will define their trajectory, and the choices made in the coming weeks will echo well beyond the current season, shaping the future of the franchise in ways that are only beginning to come into focus. All of this ties back to the broader evaluation taking place behind the scenes. The Warriors are assessing not only who fits now, but who can be trusted when the stakes rise. Every defensive stop, every unselfish pass, and every composed response to adversity feeds into that assessment. The season is not defined by a single night, but nights like this quietly shape the decisions that will eventually define what this roster becomes. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. Whispers are growing loud around the league, and the noise coming out of Golden State is no longer easy to ignore. According to circulating rumors, a serious internal rift may have erupted inside the Warriors' locker room, one intense enough to put the future of their franchise cornerstone into question. Sources close to the situation, speaking only in speculation, suggest that tensions behind the scenes have reached a boiling point, with clashing visions, bruised egos, and unresolved frustrations shaping a volatile environment. At the center of the storm is Stephen Curry, the face of the Warriors' modern era and the symbol of everything the franchise has built over the past decade. The most explosive rumor of all claims that Curry, exhausted by the internal turmoil, may have quietly signaled his openness to a change of scenery. Nothing has been confirmed, but insiders around the league are hinting that conversations once considered unthinkable are now at least being imagined. The alleged conflict is said to involve disagreements over leadership, dynamics, roster direction, and the balance between loyalty to the past and urgency for the future. Some speculate that long-standing relationships, once seen as unbreakable, are now strained by pressure and unmet expectations. Others believe the situation reflects a deeper identity crisis, as the Warriors attempt to remain contenders while navigating transition. For Curry, the rumors paint the picture of a superstar caught between legacy and ambition. On one hand, his history with the franchise is unparalleled. On the other, the competitive fire that defines him may not tolerate prolonged instability. League observers note that stars of his caliber rarely demand exits publicly, making any hint of dissatisfaction instantly seismic. Whether these stories are exaggerated or grounded in truth, the fact that they persist speaks volumes. The Warriors, long admired for stability and culture, now find themselves surrounded by uncertainty until clarity emerges. The league will continue to watch closely, wondering if this is merely noise or the first crack in one of basketball's most iconic partnerships. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.